We have to get through our top 5 relief pitchers. This list was very difficult. And as we've been doing every single episode, we are talking through projections for 2024. For those that are new, just a quick disclaimer, projections for 2024 as to who we feel like is going to perform as the top 5 in their respective positions. We're actually getting to the end of our list. We've already ran through the entire outfield, infield, and now we're getting down to the nuts and crannies of bullpen arms. So for relievers, it was tough because there's a lot of different names that you can throw in. It's like, do you have a middle inning reliever? Do you have a closer? Right. Like, you don't know middle reliever versus closer versus, it's just a lot. So I struggled with this, but I had to just lock in on my top 5. And I'm starting my number 5 off with Edwin Diaz, Edwin Orlando Diaz. Nickname, in the chat, you were talking about nicknames. Nickname is Sugar. So for Edwin Diaz, who, we've seen progress as a reliever. Now for him, he has been an all-star closer. He's had injuries that he's dealt with, a knee injury that he dealt with. Of course, that was just shattering for the Mets to have that knee injury that ended his season. And for Edwin Diaz, I do see him getting back to what he was prior to that. So far in spring training, there's been some positive notes about how he's been getting back, how he's been looking, how he's been progressing and coming off of that injury. Now, for Edwin Diaz, who just 29 years old, after missing the season, he's been talking about how much he can't wait to get going and how excited he is. And I think we're going to get to see him be more of that level of what we saw in 2022. Coming out of 2022, he's one of the best relievers across the league. Cy Young, MVP votes. He had a 1.31 ERA, and he was supposed to continue that into 2023. But not only does he have one of the best walkout songs, but he definitely is one of the best talented relievers. So back in the fold this year after having that 2020 season of the 1.31 ERA, 32 saves, 118 strikeouts, and a sub-1 WHIP. Edwin Diaz starts the list off for me at number 5. Sugar.
Yes, I am not afraid to admit the trumpet entrance is cool. I know he's a Met and it sucks, but like when the stadium gets what's the guy's name? Timmy Trumpets or something like that? Man. Whatever the hell his name is. It's a pretty cool entrance. I'll give him that. So I'll get it started with my number 5, and that's now Tyler. Yoan.
Look at you.
I did it.
I'm so proud of you.
It's just like Yohan.
Duran.
It's like Yoro.
Yeah, it's just like Yoro.
No, it's not.
Duran.
No. Rojas is Johan.
Yeah, this is
but
Yoan.
You don't say the H as much, but it's Yohan.
Yoan.
But it's not Yohan.
No, it's Yoan.
But it's Yoan. But it's similar, at least.
Yoan Duran from the Minnesota Twins. Part of the reason why the Twins have a lot of excitement out there this year. They have a pretty good ball club. Still pretty young in his career, only pitched 2 years now. I'd like to see his whip drop a little bit. He was a little bit north of a 1.1 whip last year, but his ERA, 2.45. His WAR was basically a 2. Pretty steady 67 innings there. Decent strikeout rate. He ranges in the 2 years between 33 and 37% there. Very low walk rate. His walk rate was down around 8%. Just an up-and-comer that I think is, on the verge of being a, baseball nerd household name. Yoan Duran is my number 5.
Yeah, really, really difficult.
It is tough
to pick. There's like 10 guys that
There's 2 or 3 that are kind of locks,
yeah.
and then everybody
15
else is
guys you could kind of make a case.
Agree,
for.
And I think it's what's also difficult is playing for your third team in 3 years, and I'm interested to see how this guy responds to it. I expect it to be pretty positive because he's been good in every year of his career except one. I'm going to start with Josh Hader at number 5. A really rough 2022 for him, and quite frankly, it was really just a rough couple of weeks. Like the June-July period in 2022 where he really struggled. And guys, if you remember, it almost feels like it started with that game-changing 9th inning against the Phillies where Alec Boehm and Matt Vierling went yard and beat him, and it seemed like he just couldn't get out of that funk. And he finished with a 5.2 ERA over 2 teams in 2022. Last year, bounced back extremely well like we expected him to, a 1.28 ERA, 33 saves, his 30 saves for the 4th time in 5 seasons. This guy really limits base runners other than that 2022 year, a 1.1 whip. The strikeout rates are off the charts. 85 strikeouts over the course of 56 innings pitched. It's almost 14 strikeouts per 9. He's at 15 for his career. He's going to be 30, and he enters his year 30 season. And I feel like he's been in the league forever, and he's only 30. I'm going to go Hader at 5, and everybody above this, there's one justifiable reason that I'm going with them above Hader at 5.
Okay, interesting. Moving on to number 4, I'm going with 26-year-old Yohan Duran, who has, in the first 2 seasons, really hit the majors. His first 2 seasons in the majors really hit the ground running. And I agree with a lot of what you said, Jamie. And just to echo, when you look at the numbers from his first 2 seasons, Yohan has had a 2.15 ERA, a 1.05 WHIP, 173 strikeouts, 41 walks, and 130 innings pitched, and progressed to have a great 2022 season of a 1.86 ERA, 89 strikeouts in 57 games, and then follow that up with a 2.45 ERA, 84 strikeouts and 27 saves with a 1.14 WHIP. He has really been able to be consistent, which is tough to do, especially in the first 2 seasons of some great numbers. Listen, Yohan's pitches alone that he throws, and his team was talking about, his catcher specifically, but his team was talking about, like, he's got one of the nastiest pitches that you've seen. That fastball, splitter, sinker mix that he has that has the ability to hit around 104 miles per hour. You know, he has some really, really dirty stuff that he's throwing. And so Yohan, 26 years old, still very young and very talented in how he's kicked off his first 2 seasons in Major League Baseball, which puts him on number 4 because I think he's going to continue that into 2024, guys.
MBD, you are nothing if not consistent in your hate for Blake
Respect
Snell
that.
and Josh Hader.
Haterade continues.
Yeah, kudos
MBD,
to you,
BBF.
MBD. I'll take the baseball opinion of the Houston Astros over you. No offense, but I thank you for being in here and hit that thumbs up button.
And we're
Spoiler
going-
alert: Josh Hader is in my remaining 4.
Yes.
I know you hate him, and I know he didn't take the ball late and wouldn't go several innings and all that stuff. But
I think he's got a loser attitude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not to mention he's kind of a POS on top of it all.
And we're going based off of numbers and their baseball performance, not based off of who they are as people, because otherwise there's been a number of guys we've had in our top 5. So
number 4 for me, I'm going to go Evan Phillips from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Another annoying reason about the Dodgers is Evan Phillips probably isn't even mentioned by a lot of people in terms of great bullpen arms. He's entering his 7th year in Major League Baseball. I guess you could say last year was his put him on the table, welcome to the party. MBD, keep it up. Last year was phenomenal. His whip last year was .832. That is absolutely filthy. Just north of 60 innings pitched with 66 strikeouts. Basically stepped into the closer role when he wasn't supposed to be that. Ended up with 24 saves on the year. A 2.05 ERA, pretty much a 2 WAR, and Evan Phillips really kind of cemented himself as one of the top bullpen arms in baseball last year.
I was coming off of that dad strength. Shout out to Evan. He almost was in my top 5, but I was being a little biased because his wife is phenomenal and a friend of mine, and they had their first son. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can reach out and get.
You'll have to tell him that he made our top 5 bullpen
like,
arm.
did you see the
it's probably
breaking
the
news?
greatest honor of his career.
Well, when the Phillies play the Dodgers, we have a guest. You bet you gotta use your connections.
Basically, you gotta use what you got. But they just had their first child, their
Dad
son Bo, last year. So maybe some of that dad strength kicked in.
Nice.
Shout out
my
to
daughter's
Liz.
got a friend named Bo. We have a Bo here at PHLY.
Yeah, Bo's a popping.
Bo's are booming.
Bo's a bowing.
Yeah. So that's my number 4. Who you got, Tyler?
All right, guys, I'll make it 3 for 3 on this guy. I'm going to go Yohan Duran at my number 4 spot as well. When we talk about, Renee, you brought it up earlier on the in your list. When I talk about who, like, the filthiest pitches in baseball, I've said this before. Yohan Duran's splitter is one of the 3 filthiest pitches in the game. I think about 3 guys in particular.
Devin Williams.
Devin Williams' changeup, Kodai Senga's ghost fork, and his splitter, and it's just like falls off the table, wipe out, devastating. In heading into his 3rd season, this guy
37% K rate's good. Tyler?
It's just off the charts good. 84 strikeouts and 62 innings pitched this year, 89 strikeouts and 67 pitches last year. And guys, let me give you this number. Do you know who of qualified pitchers on average who threw the hardest 4-seam fastball in Major League Baseball last year?
I'm going to go with Duran.
Duran. You know who did it with the curveball last year?
I'm going to go with Duran.
How about the splitter? Let's go
I'm
3
gonna go
for
with
3.
Duran.
The overarching
Great American Ballpark.
The overarching theme about this guy is he throws gas
Yeah.
with everything. And quite frankly, I don't know if he's fully tapped out yet. He's only heading into his 26-year-old season, a 1.80 ERA in 2022, a 2.4 ERA in 2023. And Jamie, I'll take it a step further from what you said. You think he's kind of getting into that nerd household name? Scratch that. I think he's getting into household territory. This guy's going to be one of the better closers in baseball, one of the better relievers in baseball, whether he's a closer or somebody's setup man, however you...
high leverage arm.
Yes,
Yeah.
high leverage arm. This
The
kid's
highest leverage.
This kid's a stud, and he's only getting better. I have him at 4, and I wouldn't be stunned by the end of the year if he's like 2 or 3.
Agreed. All right, well, NBDBDBF, close your ears for my number 3 because if you're sipping on that Haterade, Josh Hader is my number 3 reliever. Listen, when you look at what he's done, and I know you guys talked about the fact he's been on 3 different teams, but this team, he has not been on a team at the level of the Astros, and that to me is what's going to help elevate his game this season. When you look over the last couple of seasons, his career batting average against is of 156. He struck out 42.2% of batters faced during his 8 seasons. And then in a stretch from August 2021 to June 2022, recorded 40 consecutive scoreless appearances. Josh Hader is among relievers with at least 40 innings pitched, second with a 1.27 ERA of last season, third with that 38.7% strikeout rate. As much as you may not like who he is as a person, who he is as a pitcher, as a baseball player, is phenomenal. And I think with him being with the Houston Astros, just to add to what you guys mentioned, actually will only elevate his game because you are, much like Whit was talking about with the Phillies, a part of a team that's in a win-now position, which will allow you to mature and elevate your game as well. So as much as you may not want to like it, I think 2024 might be a big season for Josh Hader, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to also have Josh Hader at my number 3. Knocks against him is he doesn't want the ball for multiple innings, put guys on base with walks. He had a career high 13% walk rate last year. The counter to that is his strikeout rate is tremendous. It's been 46 and 47% at points in his career. Last year was 37%. 2 years ago was 42%. So, you take, I guess, the good with the bad there with Josh Hader. His ERA was 1.28 last year. Now, you'd like to see that whip drop a little bit. He is just at the 1.1 mark. So if he could get that a little bit lower, I think, hate him all you want. But, if you're getting a guy on base with a walk occasionally, but then you're striking out nearly 50% of the batters you face, you can kind of live with that. Brad Lidge was able to have some exceptional years as a closer, but would give you heart attacks every single time, but he was able to get out of it. So that's part of being a relief pitcher is can you get yourself out of jams? And with that strikeout rate, Josh Hader can get himself out of jams.
And a startling stat.
MBD, top 10 is you. I understand you don't like the guy, but come on.
A startling stat that I forgot to add to your point, Jamie. Hader has been in 16 career postseason appearances, and in 14 of them, he has not been scored on. He's got a 1.37 postseason ERA. And of course, the last playoff action was in 2022 with San Diego. But you have the ability to get to the playoffs again with the Houston Astros. And for him to not only have great numbers over his career, but also when it matters most in the playoffs, as much as you may not like him, that's very terrifying for what he can add to the Astros. So, Tyler, what's your number 3? I'm curious.
So I saw a comment earlier on the chat that said the Mets may not win a lot of games, so it might be difficult for Edwin Diaz to rack up saves. And I'm going to tell you, saves do not a reliever make. Saves look great, right? If you have 40-plus saves, that's fantastic. But if there's guys that aren't going to get any saves this year that are elite relievers, and Edwin Diaz bouncing back from that injury is somebody that I would bet high leverage situations on.
Somebody that I used to know.
He's going to be somebody that you do know again this season because his last full season, 2022, a 1.3 ERA, gave up just 9 runs in 62 innings. Yes, he did have 32 saves. He had 32 saves the year prior with the Mets as well. Once at 57 saves with the Seattle Mariners back in 2018. But the whip is where I think that he's going to hold his bread and butter. His last full season was a .84 whip. Even if he's back up to his career of 1.06, he's still going to be a legit back end, high leverage situation type of closer for the Mets. And yes, I don't think the Mets are going to be all that good, but this is about who are the best relievers in the game, not just who's accumulating saves. 118 strikeouts in 62 innings pitched in his last full season. Guys, that's a 17.1 strikeouts per 9, and he averaged almost 7 strikeouts per walk in his final season. I expect a little bit of a regression year just because it's going to be difficult to get back to that form after such a severe injury in the World Baseball Classic with Puerto Rico. But I will say, I'm banking on this guy being good. I'd be stunned if he's not.
All right, number 2, someone that I'm expecting to have an even bigger year this year after last year's performance, Emmanuel Clase, another youngster, 26 years old, blew at least 11 saves last year. But when you look overall at the big picture for the season, Clase finished with 44 saves, which is top across the league. He also had a 3.22 ERA, a 1.16 WHIP, and had a stretch where in the second half of the season, he was pitching at his best. He had a 3.9 record towards the end of the season, which also included a 2.42 ERA and a 1.12 WHIP. So also progressed as the season went on. And if he, with his signature cutter that he's able to throw, can continue to build off of how he ended 2023, Emmanuel Clase should have a big season in 2024. One of those guys we've talked about that we'd love to see with the Phillies. But I feel like for this season, with the numbers that we've seen overall throughout his career, Emmanuel Clase is one of my top relief pitchers, guys.
Oh, MBD's throwing it down. He says, I'll put my money where my mouth is. Your choice, if Hader is top 10 in FIP or ERA in 2024, $500 donation to the charity of your choice.
Wow.
Okay, it sounds like we don't have to risk anything here, MBD. You're on. So if he ends up top... What the... I don't even know how
who's calling you. Hello?
So MBD
Domino's?
Fairbanks isn't on the list. No, he was considered Emmanuel Clase. Fairbanks were like my 6-7 guys.
That's the thing we said. There's honestly
It's
10
tough.
to 15 guys that you could include in the top 5 relief pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, Alvarado's probably
closers.
in that top 12 discussion. Fairbanks is definitely up there. But for my number 2, I'm going with Edwin Diaz. I think an injury, I have complete faith like Tyler does that he's going to bounce back from this. Absolutely one of the best relief arms in baseball. A .839 WHIP in his last healthy season. His strikeouts per 9 was 17.1 that year. He just is flat out one of the best closers in baseball. I don't know what else is there to say about it. The Mets might not have those save opportunities for him, but when Edwin Diaz comes in the game, he's going to shut people's asses down. So Edwin Diaz, my number 2.
Hey, guys, how about a little love for somebody that's not a closer? We've only had closers on this list so far.
Evan Phillips, kind of was thrust into the
Yeah, so how about we do that for the first time today? Because I am so high on this guy, and very rarely will you see a list in which a team's closer is lower on the list than their team's setup man, but it's going to be the case here. My number 2 is Bryan Abreu from the Houston Astros. This guy gets no love at all, and he's posted sub-2 ERAs.
They have 2 of the top 5 on
each of the last 2 seasons. That's how good I think that this bullpen can be, and it's how good I think that the Houston Astros can be again this year. Guys, Bryan Abreu on qualified pitchers, his run value on his slider this year was a 15, which was tied for 6th in Major League Baseball. Every pitcher ahead of him, with the exception of Will Smith and Tanner Scott, and Gregory Santos. So it's about half and half. I was going to say about half and half for starters. But the point being is, Bryan Abreu's slider is wipe out filthy. Posted a sub-2 ERA each of the last 2 seasons. 100 strikeouts in 72 innings pitched last year. 88 and 60 the year prior. That's 13.1 and 12.5. The strikeout to walk ratio is up in the high 3s each of the last 2 years. This guy is the kind of guy that when you want high leverage outs, high leverage outs don't wait around till the 9th inning. Sometimes you just need to get outs when you need to get outs. And there's nobody in baseball, I don't think that I could come up with anybody that is in a non-closer role that I would want on the mound more than Bryan Abreu in a high leverage spot. This guy continues to do it. He's only 27 years old. I thought that he was their closer in waiting until they signed Josh Hader. Ryan Presley's probably going to move on at the end of the year. Even with Josh Hader at the back end of the bullpen, Abreu Hader 8-9 is something
filthy.
that is really, really gross. I love Bryan Abreu.
Yeah.
Why don't you marry him already then?
I considered having Bryan Abreu on my list as well. It was very tough. But my number one guy that I'm going with, who has a wide range in his arsenal that he can throw at you. It can be a four-seamer. It can be a cutter. It can be a signature pitcher, the airbender. It is Devin Williams. Devin Williams, please come to Philly. Listen, Devin Williams, who has continued to just progress in his career. The last 2 seasons, he's got 54 saves betwbetween the 2 years. His whip that he had a 1.53 ERA this past season, whip a 101 and a sub-1 at 0.92. Devin Williams continues to just be consistent, get better. He's in the prime of his career. He's someone that you can rely on in big moments, and he's someone that has continued to just lock up. Anytime he takes a mound, you know what to expect from him. And he relies on his airbender 57% of the time. It averages about 84 miles per hour. His changeup, you never know what he's throwing your way. Devin Williams, I don't even know how much I could possibly say about him except come to Philly. Definitely still the top guy, in my opinion, across the league.
Yep, no surprise here. Devin Williams, my number one as well. When you have one of the nastiest pitches in baseball, on top of some of the nastiest statistics to back you up, 0.9 whip last year, 87 strikeouts in 58 2/3 innings pitched.
Wild.
Case closed.
Okay.
Mic drop.
All right. Fair enough. 3 for 3. Let's move on. It's Devin Williams. To me, we just talked about those the 3 pitches that I think are the best in baseball. If I had to choose, I'm picking Williams' changeup. It just it defies the laws of physics at times. And his run value on his changeup last year, I believe, finished 4th in all of Major League Baseball. Number 1 on that list was Logan Webb. As a starter, used his changeup 42% of the time, which is just insane.
That's nuts.
But he actually, finished 3rd. Devin Williams did. There's not a whole lot to add that you guys haven't already added. This kid's filthy. He's only 20, going into his year 29 season.
Yeah.
1.9 ERA 2 years ago, 1.5 last year. He has not had a bad year yet, and it was why Milwaukee was so confident and so easily moved on from. I guess we're really just making MBD's point here of moving on from Josh Hader so confidently. Devin Williams is a freak.
Well, yeah, it's easy to move on from Josh Hader when you have the airbender coming up behind you and young and cheap.